Ahavat Yisrael really can be seen in Parashat Metzorah, in the fact that the only person that Metzorah, a person with tzarat, can go to is Aaron HaKohen. Why only Aaron HaKohen? In fact, leprosy, you should go to a doctor. Why can you only go to Aaron HaKohen specifically? Who was Aaron HaKohen? We know Aaron HaKohen always used to try to pursue peace, as it says in Pirkei Avot. In fact, he used to go ahead and lie. He used to say falsehoods in order to make peace. What about the Metzorah? What about the person that has tzarat? He said lashon hara about a person, creating machloket. Now, what's his first defense? What's the first thing that he says to justify himself? He says, it was true. I was doing a mitzvah, in fact. I was telling the truth. Because lashon hara in reality is the truth. Otherwise, it's motei chemra, which is much worse. But what's HaKadosh Baruch Hu trying to tell us? He's saying that I'd much rather Aaron HaKohen's combination. I'd much rather that you lie, but to make peace, than for you to tell the truth, but to make machloket. And that's how we see that one of the major things that Hashem is wanting us to do is Ahavat Yisrael, peace amongst us. So that's one lesson from the Rambam. The other lesson from the Rambam was Emunah b'Hashem, belief in Hashem, trusting in Hashem. Emunah b'Hashem isn't really only belief in Hashem. Emunah b'Hashem has a much deeper meaning. The deeper meaning is bringing something from Shamayim, from something that's not actual, to actuality. It's really the vehicle for bracha. It brings everything from Shamayim. If you have true Emunah b'Hashem, you can basically take everything down from Shamayim to here. There was a story about a great tzaddik. And there are two people that live next to each other. The only difference between these two neighbors was like this. One man was actually very ill. But he had tremendous emunah b'Hashem. He had tremendous belief in Hashem. However, the other man had tremendous parnasa problems, and this parnasa problems was really causing him tremendous difficulty. But he, on the other hand, had no emunah b'Hashem. What about their wives? The wife of the first man, the man that was sick yet had a bunch of emunah b'Hashem, his wife didn't have any emunah b'Hashem. What about the other wife? The wife of the husband that had no emunah b'Hashem. She did have emunah b'Hashem. So there was a whole mixture of different people here. So came the day where this man had got really sick, and he tells his wife, please go to this tzaddik. I'm telling you, he will find a remedy for me. And I trust with my full heart that this tzaddik will actually do something. The wife kept telling him, no, I'm telling you, this won't work. He's just a person at the end of the day. He's no doctor. He didn't go to medical school. He went to yeshiva. Maybe he knows Torah. No, it's not going to work. And he's extremely sick. And the only reason the wife went is because she loved this man. And she said, fine to her husband. But she said, when I come back, after I go to the tzaddik, if I come back and this result doesn't work, I'm taking you to the doctor. He said, fine, whatever. She jumps on a wagon, and she's about to go to the tzaddik. Next door, the other wife, she sees that there's a wagon about to go to the tzaddik, and she begs her husband, please let me go to the tzaddik. He'll help you with all of your parnasa problems, and you'll be totally okay. Husband said, come on, how is this man going to help? He didn't go to business school. He doesn't know. Fine. He says, okay, fine. She jumps on the wagon, and then both wives go to the tzaddik. The way it worked in the olden days is if you wanted something from a gadol, tzaddik, you'd have to write it on a paper, and you'd submit it, and then you'd get your response. So, the first wife wrote down, my husband has trouble, is very ill. Please help him. She sends it in. The other one says, my husband has tremendous parnasa problems, and he really needs help in that. She sends it in. So the Gabbai steps in, he takes both requests. He goes to the tzaddik. Tzaddik looks at the first one. He says, my husband is very ill. You should stick leeches, you should stick needles into his hand, pull out some blood, and the blood will take out obviously the sickness, and he'll be healed. To the other one, she sees it says my husband has tremendous parnasa problems. He says he should work on his emunah b'Hashem. He should work on his belief in Hashem. So the Gabbai takes the two notes from the tzaddik. He gives it back. Problem is, he switched them. The Gabbai switched them, and when he submitted it back to them, they were flipped. So the lady that she sees, and the lady that her husband was very ill, she sees it says he should have stronger emunah b'Hashem. She says, I knew it. That's probably the canned answer. I knew it. It's not going to help my husband. She goes home. The other lady who has tremendous emunah b'Hashem sees, and says, so he looks at the top, he says, my husband has tremendous parnasa ram. She looks at the answer, you should stick leeches in his hands. Okay, so they both go home. So the first wife says, I knew it, haha, he didn't help you at all in medical issues, he just said you should have stronger belief in Hashem. He said, that's what the rabbi said? Okay. 2 months later, he just jumped out of bed, he was totally okay. And basically nothing happened. It was just a paper that said you should have stronger belief in Hashem. Now what happened next door? The wife comes in, she buys these 2 needles, and she runs to her husband. She says, the Gadol said that I should stick these 2 things in your hands, and then you'll be okay. The man said, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense at all. I'm having problems with my parnasa, and you're going to stick these 2 needles up my arms? That doesn't make any sense. That's what the Gadol said. I'm telling you this is going to work. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. The husband said, look, the landlord, the one that's going to take our land away basically now, is coming soon. This makes absolutely no sense at all. Plus, I have to be in good shape to show the landlord, please, I have to beg him to keep my land, because I don't have any money to, number one, I have to pay him back for all the other times that I didn't pay him. Now I have to ask him again for another delay, and this is going to be the 5th time in a row that I haven't paid him. He's going to take the land away. And now you want to stick needles at my arms? What are you doing to me? She said, I'm telling you this is going to work. She took him, threw him onto a bed, took these 2 needles and stuck him up his arms. And at that exact moment, who walks in? The landlord. The landlord walks in. Now, the landlord happened to bring his wife along. So they walked into the room, and they see that this man that they're about to take his land away has leeches in his arm, and he looked very ill. And the wife turned to her husband and he said, look, are we really going to take a land away from this ill man? Not only should all the debts of his past go away, we should let him keep this land for free, totally forget about him, and it should be okay. And husband agreed. They walked out. What happened in this story? What happened is as follows. To the first husband, the husband of the first house, when he was sick, he had so much emunah b'Hashem already. When he got that paper that said, have a stronger emunah b'Hashem, he had such a high belief in Hashem, and he realized that this tzaddik was so right. He realized and really worked on himself to have even a stronger emunah b'Hashem, and that's what brought him out, because it was all a matter of bringing something that was already in Shamayim to actuality, and he was healed. As for the other one, that was in the wife's zichut. The wife already had such a strong emunah b'Hashem, and the real test was for her to convince the husband to stick the needles up his arms. And since she was able to go with that, something that made no sense at all, that's what gave them the zichut to be able to stay in their house forever. We know that talking about these 2 lessons in the Rambam, Emunah b'Hashem and Ahavat Yisrael, there's only one problem left that we have in these two lessons of the Rambam. Ahavat Yisrael is a tremendous thing, and we know this. Why? Because we know there was a story of Hillel HaZaken, and he said, if you want to be able to be Mekayim the entire Torah, you should be able to do V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. We know Rabbi Akiva said Zeh kol gadol b'Torah. So he said. So obviously, what was Hillel HaZaken saying? This is the biggest rule in the Torah. This is the one mitzvah you should focus on. We have another story about Habakkuk. That Habakkuk said that what's the one mitzvah that you should always focus on? Tzadik be'emunato yichyeh. That you should always have emunah. But there's a clear contradiction between these two. Because on the one hand, Hillel HaZaken was saying that the one mitzvah, the main mitzvah, is Ahavat Yisrael. Comes Habakkuk, says the main mitzvah is emunah. Which one is it? Is it Ahavat Yisrael or is it emunah? The answer is like this. The Kli Yakar says in reality they're all completely correct. What does that mean? That means each one is like the entire Torah. The Ahavat Yisrael is 100% of the whole Torah, and Emunah B'Hashem is 100% of the whole Torah. What does that mean? That means that together they both complete the Torah. Both of them. Imagine if you complete both of them. Imagine if you do both of them at the same time. What is that like? What is the luchot? The Ten Commandments, Aseret HaDibrot. What are they consist of? We know that the first side consists of Ben Adam LeMakom, which is basically in reality Emunah. We know the other side, the second side is Ben Adam LeChavero, Ahavat Yisrael. And if you could do both of those, if you could do both lessons of the Rambam, you complete everything. And if you can really, really do that, you'll complete the entire thing. But don't think it's so easy. That, I'm just going to do Emunah, I'm going to do Ahavat Yisrael. That's the lifelong journey that we really have to focus on. So let us not emulate the Metzorah who totally forgot all of this. Let's really, really try to focus on these two mitzvot. And if we can really do that, we shall see the coming of Mashiach. Amen.